Hi, this is Calvin, and my topic is cinema and film. I chose this topic because I really love watching films, and I'm a huge enthusiast of movies, and I've been watching them as a kid, and I always go deep into research during my free time about the history of film and the creation of film, and I eventually want to make my own film in the future, just for fun. All right, so with the visual potential, I want to talk about time first. So time, I want to convey the history of cinema with the most important events throughout the history of cinema, with the invention of the telenoscope, the classic use of the old-fashioned camera, all the way to transitioning to using the most advanced technology that we have today, and I use black and white photos that go along with the major events that happen throughout the history of cinema. I have a tiny description as well as the year that happens. And so for numbers, I want to convey the different popular genres in North America from 1995 to 2019 and compare them in terms of their box office numbers. And so we have adventure as the top, going down to horror. And then we also have a fun fact on the right side of numbers to show, this is what's going to happen by the end of 2019. That like Hollywood is going to surpass nearly $50 billion worldwide. Um, and so the main reason for the numbers display is to mainly compare the size in box office numbers. So for the appearance display, I want to convey that my topic is cinema and film, and that right next to it, Leonardo DiCaprio is a pioneer of current digital cinema. And below, I have a question asking the viewer, are you ready to enter the new age of cinema and digital film? And moving on from that, we have the relationship display, which is showing the relationship of film or the process of film creation, starting off with pre-production, production, post-production, which is like storyboarding, or like it goes on from storyboarding and like budgeting on to like making the actual film, onwards to like editing the film and adding CGX or CGI and sound effects to the film. And also have an icon right next to them to have associations with each of those three steps, as well as a picture of a guy doing film creation in the past. So for the location display, I have the largest film markets in the whole world, um, and I have them different colors to show the different uh, size in film markets. And so I have United States first and China second, onwards to Australia and Mexico being last of the top eight in the largest film markets in the world. For the encoding, I used the size for I had two encodings for the largest film markets in the world. I decided to use a bubble chart. And so I use the size of the film markets in the top eight countries to show the largest amount of spending in those film markets. And so I have the largest size with United States and China, um, and the smallest size with Australia and Mexico, but also have a color encoding with the maps with the darkest color in teal showing the largest size in film market with the lightest teal, showing the smallest film market in those top eight. Moving on, I have the global competition, and so I have the color encoding of the gradient of teal, with the darkest teal having the most heaviest weight in terms of box office for adventure, and the lightest teal for horror, and also have the size association, so the longest bar for adventure and the shortest bar for horror. I have the association for the background color of yellow behind the character Bruce Lee, because Bruce Lee wears yellow all the time in his movies that he's iconic for. Um, and so yeah, so for the process of film creation, I use the color encoding of teal, black, yellow, and I use teal for pre-production because it's like it's like a bright idea color. I use black and white for the production because I want to capture like the iconic of like the black and whiteness of film before, and yellow for the for like the after effects that um, color can be added onwards, and like colors can be changed to make it brighter in post production. So yeah. In terms of the color associations, that's my color model on the right, and that's my display on the left. And so, as you can see on the model, I have a yellow behind the black and white photo of that guy. And so I applied the same yellow, and I have a yellow for Leonardo DiCaprio in the center. Um, and so I also have the gradient of teal, as you can see from the model, and I have the gradient of teal in my bar graph. And so, in terms of my bar chart for the film market sizes, um, the the red circles come from the color model, uh, with the circles versus the X's, and so it looks the same like that. The background color is similar, however, because my typography model, um, these sections are separated from light color to dark color to light color to dark color. I had to use a slight lighter color for each section, for each like other section. As you can see, like my main colors are yellow, teal, and red, and it's displayed all throughout my model. So in terms of the typography, the font is the same, or at least close. And so looking at the appearance display, I have a similar big font as the title, right? And then I have the small white font below it as a question towards the viewer to stir up engagement. For the relationship model, I have the same three hexagons, and I have this, and right next to it, I have the same like semi-large or semi-bold title with the associated description, title, description, and I also have the for the numbers, I have the large title, these large section title, and then a sub description, and then a title for the graph. And for each of the graph, I know it's kind of small right here, but the each label for the numbers are the same, in the same size and the same font as well. And so I have the precision labels in terms of their numbers, um, which is the same as the model with their precision numbers and the size and the font of the numbers as well. And I also have a identity label, which is the label of each bar, showing its adventure, drama, action. So there it is, yeah. And also have the identity label for the process of film creation, which is pre-production, production, and post-production. And so for the time model, uh, I have precision labels such as the year that happens, and then I also have like labels such as like the description that describes what happens. And so yeah, that's it for topography. So for the visual language model, I wanted to capture the same as my topography model, and so I used like black and white photos. The shapes are cropped from photos I found online, and so I have these textures in the boxes, such as the boxes in my uh, throughout the time display. I have the pattern of the white little circles as background, and I also have the division kind of the same across all the boxes with the layouts and the pictures of the text and pictures of the black and white photos. As you can see, it imitates the topography model quite well. And so moving on to the numbers display, I have the location of the bar chart kind of the same, um, with the numbers at the end of it and the identity labels on top of it. And for that, I used, let's see, I used for the graphic on the right, I have the same black and white photo with a circle behind it, and then below it, I also have a box with a fun fact that imitates the visual language model. For the relationship, I have three hexagons, right, and then like also the tinier hexagons right next to it to display or like to imitate it and to capture the three main points of film creation, and also have the black and white photo of the film creation with the hexagons behind it as background. For the appearance display, the same thing with the large size font, with the pattern of circular white circles behind the black and white photo, as well as the question and the red behind it. For the visual hierarchy, I wanted to convey I want to take the viewer from top to bottom basically, and starting off with the cinematic, or starting off with the title, which introduces the viewer to what my whole display means with cinema and film, with a picture of Bruce Lee right next to it, and then leading on with the description, overall description of how everything ties in together, with the map, with the numbers, with the creation of film, and the history of cinema. So I want to start off with uh, telling or showing the viewer that where the most popular uh, film markets of the world are, and moving on to the most popular genres, getting more and more specific into the details about cinema and film. And then moving on from that, I wanted to have some information about the creation of film as a more specific way for some people with intentions of learning how to make films eventually. And I also want to give background about the cinema of film, or about the history of a cinema. Um, and so I wanted to take the visual hierarchy from the most general to the most narrow to most detail specific. And I believe in my model, the most detail is the history of cinema, with the details about each step that brought um, cinema into light throughout history. In terms of unity and variety, I wanted to have. At first, I had the map and the date and the number displayed separated, but then I realized that it actually looks better, and it follows the visual language model a lot better if they're combined, given the dark color, white color, dark color, white color background that exists in my models. And so because I also have numbers associated with the maps, I wanted to tie them together, and it works. And so that's a sample of Unity. Um, at the same time, I have variety in my in my display because I have like a variety of different um, representation of the same thing, and so I have the bubble chart and the color gradient in terms of uh, in, in terms of the associations with the largest film markets in the world. I have some variety, including information about film creation, which is different from just explaining about the history of cinema or about how the box office works across the world. Um, but then also have some variety about the history of cinema, about if my reader decides that he wants to learn more about the history of film, how it first started, how motion pictures first came into the public eye, how it became so popular, the golden age of cinema, stuff like that. Um, and there's also, but it also ties in together with the whole topic of cinema and film because the spread of film across the world is associated with the history of cinema. In terms of the layout of all my numbers, I imitated my layout model pretty accurately, starting off with the appearance display with a large text title showing what the whole graphic is all about, with the main description, with generally uh, with like general information about where the spread is of film across the world, to the numbers display, which is similar to how in my model they also had the numbers display up top, all the way down or down to the relationship display with the process of film creation, and similar to my model with the 3 points. Um, Also for the layout of my history of cinema display, that is pretty accurate with the layout of the roster display. And so each component matched pretty accurately with my model, and the location of where it's placed afterwards is also matching. So yeah, my layout, I also want to take my reader from the most general sense, from where it is in the world, to the most specific sense. In terms of alignment, I have the same alignment in terms of my model with the location of the text on the left hand side, and all of my text throughout the graphic is aligned left. And also have the graphics aligned in the same position, which is like right for the first three, for appearance, um, for the numbers, and for the process of film creation. And in terms of the timeline, I also have each location of the graphic in the same alignment as my model. And so everything is aligned in the same way. I tried with the numbers display with the bar graph on the left, with the picture on the right. Um, yeah. Also with the description up top and the description down there, they're essentially aligned. And so, yeah,